Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. So we're going to be doing another guide on formations and tactics. This time we're going to be looking at the desert people, also known as the Aserai, down at the south of the map. Like I mentioned, very much a desert nomadic people, so bearing that in mind, we know that they are, they go into battle with very light armor. So they don't have much protection or defense when it comes to their ground troops. But what they lack in that, they do make up for by having some very good archers. The Aserai Master Archers are very, very potent archers, and their cavalry. So their cavalry is not the best, but they do have a strength, which is their Mamluks are very heavy infantry cavalry, but also use a bow on horseback as well. So like I said, on the archer point of view, the Aserai do have that down to a T. They are very, very strong and potent archers. However, you can counter this pretty easily by having some good shield infantry. Even if you're just using Imperial, the Imperial Legionaries should be fine against these guys. And if you've got crossbowmen, the crossbowmen have heavy armor, so you'll be able to counter that quite easy, quite quickly. So the next thing that we're going to be wanting to look at with these guys is what they're going to have their focus on. Now, they will bring quite a large force of mounted troops. There will be half cavalry, half horse archers, but they'll have a lot of them. And like I said, their Mamluks also work doubly so as cavalry as well as horse archers. They are very strong, so you have to watch out for them. But like I said, again, big focus on infantry. It shouldn't be much of a problem. So getting into the actual tactics and formations, here we're going to be looking at a battle. We've got an overwhelming force of 300 men, so they have double our number. There's going to be quite a few recruits in there, but there's also going to be a very large, decent amount of good troops as well, so we don't have to worry about that. They do have a large number, so either way we should be fine. Now, right, if we go ahead and jump into the battle, and we'll start walking through all the formations and tactics that we're going to be using. As always, we're going to be covering two battles, first one and second one. It's going to be very similar tactics. But I just get to show you both how they work both times and on different maps as well. As always, guys, if you're enjoying these formations, or if you want to see any specific factions or any more different formations and tactics to use against these guys, there are loads you can use. Loads of different formations and tactics that both work against these guys. I'm just showing you the simple ones that I use mostly, and the ones that I started using when I started going to war with these sorts of factions. And they're just kind of the simplest ones that you can use that do work. They are efficient and they do the job. Right, so let's jump into it. Let's jump into the battle. Okay, here we go, guys. So straight away we've got a nice open desert field here. And we've got, again, more or less half and half infantry focus and archers focus, with a few cavalry, not many, but enough to be efficient and help us in this battle. So the first thing we're going to want to do is find our flattest bit of ground, our most open bit of ground, because as you can see there's a lot of dunes, and we could use these to our advantage, but better off to use them if we have a big focus on cavalry. So what we want to do is get our infantry and archers in a nice open flat ground area where we can assault the enemy, where our archers can be the most efficient and have a good line of sight on the enemy. No little cracks or crevices where they can go up and down and avoid our arch fire. We want them to come straight at us through a nice flat field. As you can see, we're just trying to cut down their horse archers because they've charged straight into us. So we're just going to use our archers and ourselves to just try and cut down as many of these guys as possible. It just stops them from disrupting our formations whilst they're charging at us. So once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to get our infantry into a formation just in front of our archers here. Preferably we're going to use the square formation, especially because we're outnumbered. We want our shield facing outwards, and we want to be nice and compact against the enemy. We also want to create a good distance between our infantry and archers, because a lot of the time the enemy infantry will wrap around, but they'll go a little bit too far and then they'll end up attacking your archers. So we want a big gap between them, and we want to split up our archers as always, because we've got a large quantity of archers. We want to make sure we split them up and get them in good positions. Now what should happen is once the enemy comes towards us, they're going to wrap around our infantry and our archers are going to demolish their flanks. Especially this works especially good with the Aserai, because like I said, they're very light armoured infantry. They're a desert people, so they need that light armour because they're in constant hot environments. They need to be light, they need to keep their cool, and obviously that is their biggest disadvantage. It does make them quite fast, so they can cover ground very quickly, and they are very quick when using their melee weapons as well. But bear in mind, they're also incredibly unarmoured and incredibly weak. So what we're going to do, we've put our horse archers up on that flank, so they've got a perfect flank, and we're going to charge with our archers horses straight into the enemy flanks. So we can see, like I said, they have no armour, so using our cavalry to just even charge, even if you get straight through them. If the line's thin enough, pierce a hole straight through them. But if you can, charge your cavalry into their flanks. Not only will this do massive amounts of damage, but it will also disrupt them. It will cause them to break off in different directions, possibly come out of the formation to try and attack you. And as you can see here, I don't have to do much more of the work because my archers are absolutely slaughtering them. All of my arrows are hitting their targets in the backs, in the areas where they have no armour, and they have no armour anyway. Even their higher tier troops have no men. I'm just going to get that horse out of the way so it's not just getting in the way of my archers. But like I said, as you can see, our archers are wasting their arrows and absolutely demolishing the enemy force. They're barely getting through our infantry. Infantry's holding nice and firm. They've got their shields up. They're not barely fighting back either. They're just letting the archers do the work. Once we can see that most of our archers have run out of ammo, we just send them into a charge, and even with their swords and shields, they hit the enemies in the flanks as well. And that can help the infantry, so the infantry can now charge as well, because they've got less pressure on them. But also the archers are great in melee combat as well. As long as you use them in the right format and they don't get overwhelmed, they're brilliant hand-to-hand combatants. So we can get them into the battle as well, and they can start doing their job even once they run out of ammo. They still have brilliant uses. As you can see, they're also faster than the enemy, so as they try and run, we can cut down more of them as well. But there you go, guys. So we were massively outnumbered. Yes, there was a lot of recruits in there, but the Aserai generally, because of their lack of armour, because of the environment that they're in, they are quite weak. They are very easy to kill, so even if you're outnumbered, you should be able to handle them pretty easily. The only threat really with these guys, like I said before, is their cavalry. Especially if you're going up against an army, they might bring quite a heavy force of their horse archers, and their cavalry is usually quite big as well. And these guys can be a threat. These their heavy Mamluks are good cavalry, don't be mistaken. They also have an elite noble unit, which is cavalry as well. They're not horse archer cavalry, they will go into the formation of cavalry, but they can build up quite a decent number of them too, and they are, again, they're quite good. They're on par with the elite cataphracts sometimes. They can be very, very good cavalry. So you've got to bear those in mind, and make sure that you always keep your archers protected. Like I did at the start here, if I charge towards their horse archers, I take a lot of fire on me, and I know I'm fast enough that I can take it, because I can dodge and weave, unlike most of my cavalry. If I sent them forward, they'd just take the arrows dead on. But I can disrupt their formations. My archers can shoot behind me, and I'm not blocking too many of their shots. As you can see, our losses, we lost 21 men overall, 3 dead, 18 injured. The enemy lost well over 300. So the formation worked absolutely beautifully. Obviously, there was a huge focus on our archers there. They did most of the work, but that is what they're there for. Having a good balance between infantry and archers, even if you have the same amount, say 50 infantry, 50 archers. You don't even need the cavalry. They're just there. They kind of reduce how many losses you take, because you can use them to hit flanks and obviously disrupt enemy formations. So having the cavalry is always a good bonus, but you can do this without them. If you just want to focus on a force of infantry and archers, this is the perfect sort of formation you can use. This formation does work with all other factions, however, it works best when using it against the Aserai, because certain other factions have different levels of armour, and their weaponry can also disrupt the square formations, and they can pierce through them quite quickly. Alright guys, so we're going to jump ahead and we're going to go to the next battle. I will see you there in a moment, and then we will get to it there as well. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, here we go. So we're at our next battle. Again, force of about 300 of them. Sorry, 230. So not far off 300. Right, so yeah, 240 of them. And we've had our infantry reduced down, but only by a fraction. But, you know, we have less of a focus. As you can see, this map is a little bit more hilly. Now, there aren't as many flat grounds in front of us, and we're on much more of a slope. I was kind of hoping to get the valley. Unfortunately, I didn't. But you can use a very different tactic there. But we'll get to that in the future, hopefully. I'll cover some actual just formations in general, and walk through a lot of the units themselves. But as you can see here, so we're going to get our infantry again in square formation in a decent position in front of us. We're going to have all of our cavalry follow us and get on the hillside to the right of us, and our archers are already split up, taking the flanks on either both the left and the right sides. So as soon as the enemy wraps around our square, we know that our archers are going to deal the biggest punch there and deal with them. I've accidentally gone out of the map, so don't repeat that. It's not a good tactic. So what we're going to do is we're just going to charge around. We've put our horse archers up on that hill because we don't want them to come with us. But what we're going to do, our main focus for this battle is to get rid of their cavalry, because these guys have a lot more cavalry than the last force. So we are going to charge with our cavalry, and we're going to try and draw the enemy horse archers, the enemy cavalry, and we're going to get them behind the enemy footmen, as far away from them as possible. Now once we've kind of got all of their horses occupied on us, once they've all started to charge against us and made us their target, I'm going to send my cavalry to charge against them. My cavalry is very heavily armoured, so I can trust them. They're not low tiered either, so I know for a fact that they'll be able to hold their own, and they'll be able to stay alive long enough that my infantry, my footmen, can deal with their footmen, and then we can all together focus on taking out the cavalry. Now, the goal here isn't for my cavalry to eliminate the enemy cavalry, it's just to keep them occupied at the other end of the map, as far away from my archers as possible. That way, as you can see in the feed, my archers can do their job without being disrupted or diverted. So we've got a nice gap between the cavalry and the enemy formation, so we're going to go ahead and send our cavalry into a charge. They're going to keep them occupied. We'll cut down a few of them as we're here, but generally the main focus of our enemy cavalry is going to be on our cavalry. So we're going to go back and join the fight over here. As you can see, the enemy is just about to connect with our infantry, and our archers are already doing massive amounts of damage, and that's before the enemy's even wrapped round. But as soon as they start to go around, you'll see in the feed that is going so much faster. They're getting so many more kills, and it's pretty much all due to my archers. But obviously the infantry is doing a good job too. They're getting a good amount of kills in there as well. But I don't even feel like I need to get involved. I can just sit here and watch. My archers will absolutely annihilate the enemy formations. Absolutely no issues there, no problems. Pretty much all gone already. So before we even run out of ammo, that entire force of 100 to 200 men is gone. Absolutely no concerns. Now we can send all of our footmen into a charge. There's not a single infantryman of the enemy left, so now we just got to deal with the cavalry. But if we send everyone into a charge, push our archers forward, we'll send one of our archers into a charge. That way they can move fire at the same time, and we'll put the other formation in a nice high ground where they can hopefully get off a few shots and kill any of them that get too close. Our cavalry's been picking them off slowly anyway, as you can see. They have been getting a few kills as it goes on. They're just not that fast at getting the kills against cavalry. That's why we use them to just kind of divert their attention and keep them away from our men as much as possible. So we can just head out, do our job, send the horse archers. They're usually quite good at taking out cavalry. And obviously our archers will, again, take most of them out as well. But there you go. Another battle won with the same tactics. So they do work. This is probably one of the best tactics you're going to get to use against these guys. Obviously, if you have a focus on different parts of your force, so if you're mainly a cavalry guy and you just have lots and lots and lots of cavalry, to be honest, with the Aserai, you should be absolutely fine. Like I said, a lot of their men are very lightly armoured, and because they're so fast, it's usually quite good for your cavalry, because that means their formations will split up a lot more. They'll be a lot loosened. That guy made a big mistake there, the fool. But yeah. It's a good tactic. Like I said, as always, if you want to see any other tactics, if you want to see any other factions on factions, like I said, I've been using kind of a mix of more Imperial Valandian forces. Big heavy focus on our Imperial archers, but I've got a fair few Valandian infantry. There's no real reason for this. It's just I've been picking up men where I go, as I've been losing them during battles as well. But generally I was trying to keep it as much Imperial based as I could. Obviously certain factions do excel in different areas, not everywhere's units is the same. And we'll be looking at Britannia next, and you'll see how infantry does change, and our tactics will change a lot when it comes to infantry that are much, much better than most other factions. With the Aserai, like I said, their best units really are their archers and horse archers, much like the Khuzaits. Except they vary in armour. The Khuzaits go overboard with the amount of horse archers they have, whereas the Aserai never have that amount, but they have good quality. Much, much better quality, much better armoured than the Khuzait ones. But yeah, like every single faction has their weak points and their strong points. But we'll walk through that, and if you want me to go in more detail than that, I will. Just let me know. If you want to see any specific factions, let me know that as well. Otherwise, guys, I hope this has helped. I hope this has answered a few of your questions. Even if you're just looking for some ideas, I hope this has helped that too. If you've got any suggestions, comments, tips, anything you want to see at all, if you've got anything you want to say, or just if you've got any tips of your own about this, if you've got any strategies you use yourself as well, please let me know down in the comments. Please go ahead and join the Discord as well, and we can all have a chat there, talk about our strategies, tactics, talk about different games, all sorts of things. Make sure to go ahead and join the Discord as well. We can continue to build a community together. There's loads of people in there already that all having chats together, so you guys can go ahead and join that as well. That would be perfect. But yeah, otherwise, if there's anything you want to see specifically, please let me know. And I will see you in the next episode, guys. I hope this has helped. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you have. And if you haven't, then please let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.